If you've worked with a recruiter previously, it's not unlikely that you've had a bad experience. In this video, I have a special guest to answer questions. Find out how to take advantage and get the most out of your interactions with the recruiter. Today, I have a special guest for the video, a corporate recruiter who's worked with companies like Apple and Google. Welcome to the video, Jack. Hi, happy to be here. You seem vaguely familiar. First question, Jack, if that is your name. Can you give us a quick overview of what it is exactly a recruiter does? Well, first thing, there are two types of recruiters. The first is a corporate recruiter, and they're employed directly by the company that you're interviewing for. The second type of recruiter is a contract recruiter. Now, they can be employed by themselves or a contract recruiting firm, and these recruiters provide candidates to an employer looking to fill positions. The only significant difference here is that the corporate recruiter is going to have better insight into the hiring process for the teams that they support. There are really two main functions of a recruiter. The first is sourcing. Now, this includes looking for and finding individuals that could be a fit for open positions, reaching out to them, and getting them engaged with the interview process. The second function of a recruiter is to manage the logistics of the interview and offer process. So then, second question, what is it that you want? What is it that motivates you in your work? I think this is the real trick to understanding recruiters. The only significant measure of success in their work is how many hires they make per year. Recruiters are very rarely ever measured on any other metric for success. So as a recruiter, the only thing that I really want is the same thing as the candidate. I want them to get hired. Well, if you have such similar goals to your candidates, why is it that so many candidates have bad experiences with their recruiters? As soon as it's unlikely that a candidate will get hired, a recruiter has very little motivation to put any effort into that interaction. The result of this is that as soon as a recruiter realizes a candidate is unlikely to get hired, they become much less responsive. A good recruiter will still make sure to give candidates updates and be sure to very quickly and promptly let them know if they're not going to move forward in the interview or the offer process. Not all recruiters are good recruiters, and that's not something that always happens. Now, keep in mind that there's a real difference between a recruiter who's not being responsive and a hiring process that's hit a delay. Oftentimes, the hiring process encounters these delays, and an attentive recruiter will get back to you very quickly, let you know that they're waiting for an update, that they don't have any information to provide, and that they'll be in contact as soon as they do have an update. On the other hand, when a recruiter has a candidate that's unlikely to move forward, they won't respond at all, or there will be very long delays before you get that response for an update. I think a question that frustrates a lot of candidates is, why won't you give feedback after an interview? The employers don't treat the hiring process as a coaching session for candidates. Giving criticism after a rejection doesn't give the employer any gain or benefit. Instead, it actually opens them up to risk. So common unwritten policy is just not to offer any constructive feedback at all. I think the best thing that a candidate can do in that situation is just be prepared that they're not going to receive any of that feedback. And that'll lessen the frustration when the situation happens. Do you have advice for candidates to get the most out of their interactions with recruiters, especially recruiters that are being difficult? The most important advice I can give is to learn to read the signals. Now, like I said, when a recruiter becomes unresponsive, it's likely that you're not going to move forward in the process. If you start seeing delays in responding to emails and phone calls, it's not necessarily the case that you're not moving forward. Delays happen often, but if they don't even let you know that they're waiting for an update, then I would take that as a sign that it's unlikely that you're going to move forward. And if you're prepared for that, again, it'll be less frustrating when you encounter it. The other most important thing that a candidate can do is to not stop the job search process when they get, deep into the interview stage. If you are continuing the job search and you have other options, then when you receive that rejection information, you can focus your efforts on those opportunities that you do still have in play. One thing I would suggest staying away from is trying to pressure a recruiter by reaching out to the hiring managers or their recruiting manager. If you reach out to a hiring manager directly, they're probably just going to be annoyed that you're interacting with them outside of the process. If you try to report the recruiter to their recruiting manager, you're probably going to upset them, and they still are a gatekeeper for your interview process. One thing that you possibly can do if you have a recruiter who really won't respond is to suggest to them that you may reach out to another person on the recruiting team. Now, that may motivate them to then respond to you, but typically it's just not worth the effort. If the recruiter is not responding to you, again, the signal is clear that you're most likely not moving forward in the interview process. That's all for this video. As always, you can put any questions in the comment section below, and you can find more help for your job search at nextstepjobsearch.com. Thanks for having me. Hope this was helpful.